So President Zelensky visiting Kherson, and well he might, it's been the crowning success of the Ukrainian counteroffensive so far. This was the only city that the Russians had captured, and it's been under Russian occupation for 8 months before this liberation just a few days back. This is a huge advance for the Ukrainian forces, and Zelensky is marking it through his visit, and true to style, he has been meeting people and not just officials, going out on the streets, and that has been his style all along. When this capital Kiev was attacked by a series of Russian missiles, he was among the first to come out of the air raid shelters and go out on the street and meet with people. That is a very casual style he has adopted, and we have seen that now in Kherson. People have been out celebrating, and the president now is there with the people, celebrating with them, but the celebrations being marked with some caution that the war is not over. That caution persists in Kherson itself. There have been a series of warnings that the city has been booby trapped, that it has been mined all over the place, as its governor has said, and so the Ukrainian forces are engaged in demining and sanitizing the place. Needless to say, the areas visited by Zelensky have been sanitized ahead of that visit. But this is a crucial visit, a very symbolic visit, a triumphant visit, and this was certainly coming, though necessarily it was unannounced given the security concerns. This now has raised issues about what the Russians did. Zelensky has warned already that at least 400 war crimes have been recorded already since the Russians left, and that these will be investigated. There have been reports of civilians being killed, military persons being killed, and not in combat. These crimes will be investigated. We've seen a pattern of this now. We saw that in Bucha, just on the outskirts of Kiev, where at least 400 were killed. Many bodies were found with hands tied behind their back. There was evidence of torture. We saw that then in Liman again after the Russian retreat, and now these reports are beginning to emerge in Kherson. So the triumph that is being marked by and being symbolized through Zelensky's visit now to Kherson has to be considered in the view of what the city has suffered through more than 8 months of occupation and what may yet be unearthed and revealed. But again, there is fresh warning that this triumph is not necessarily the last word, and that the war is not over. The Russians have quit Kherson city, but they have not quit Kherson Oblast. They have moved to the other side of the Dnieper River, onto the eastern side where they are well entrenched, and Kherson city is within easy shelling distance from their positions. People are being given warnings. A curfew is in place in Kherson. River traffic has been restricted. So the city is far from being back to normal. Zelensky is encouraging the citizens to stay there, to be strong as they have been, and to come back to normal life. The Ukrainian flag is flying in Kherson, but it will be some time before business and normal life kicks back into anything near normalcy. The population of the city now is just about a quarter of what it was in normal times. People fled, but for those who stayed, it's been a long and hard haul, and it may not be over. Militarily, this is not just a Russian retreat because they retreated on their own choice. As the Ukrainian military commander has told us, they had no choice. The Russians had overextended themselves across the river onto its western side. They had supply difficulties. There were tactical moves by Ukrainian military to cut off those supplies, and they did so very successfully, as we see. This has led to a position where the Russians could not sustain themselves on that overextended front from their point of view, and they've fallen back. But there are reports that they are regrouping and that there could be a new counteroffensive from the Russians further north in the Donbas region and in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. That is something that the Ukrainians are preparing for. They too are overextended. There is a limit on how many fronts they can fight with a huge force at the same time. But they are being equipped afresh by NATO. They are preparing themselves, and it's going to be a difficult winter for the military, for the people. The war is not over, but certainly a well-earned triumph from Zelensky at the moment through this visit to Kherson.